Hello and welcome to another episode of Monster Cutie. This is going to be part 2 of the Snacking Cutie tutorial walkthrough, whatever the hell I'm calling it. And you will notice that you can see my file structure. This is how I save things on my computer. Documents folder, there's the Monster Cutie folder, Snacking Cutie. And then you'll see this handy dandy folder that I've just created called References. And you open that up and I have a handful of JPEGs right here. These all came off of a Google search, and I'm going to open them up in preview, which is pretty cool. It's the default image viewer for Mac OS. And I've got a couple of good photo references for rocks and clearings, and it appears to me that in all of these clearing settings there's a lot of underbrush and twigs and rocks on the ground and not a nice pad of grass, which is kind of what I was drawing. So I'm gonna have to go back in and fix that, get in some of these details. I like what's going on in here with these rocks. And here's here's a photo I took of myself with my laptop of me munching on a sock. I figured out that I want the toe hanging down, sort of to indicate that the little guy has eaten the human, I guess, head first. So, all right. So I will be referring to these while I'm painting in more details into my black and white underpainting. And I've already fired. Well, I have not fired up my file. Let's me fire up my file. Here's the snack. Oh, and I'm attempting to fight off a cold. So if you hear me sipping stuff, I'm drinking tea. And this is a situation where a dual monitor setup would be awesome, because I could have my photos on one monitor and I could work on this monitor without having to switch back and forth like this. The other option is to put all those photos into a layer in Photoshop and then turn it on and off, but that will also increase the file size that you're working on, and since I'm working at print resolution, this is already pretty big, so I don't want to mess with it too badly. Alright, so this is where we left off yesterday. I thought about it, and I kind of want to put a monster hat on the little guy. But before we do that, I'm going to sketch in some of the details that I got rid of when I did. Actually, let's try this. Alright, so I'm going to select transparency of the big guy. And to do that, I think it's no, I don't know. I should put a Windows keyboard in front of me so I can figure it out. But on an Apple, it's the Apple key and just click on the transparency. Whoops, click on the transparency in the thumbnail view here. And what just happened there? I think I made it bigger. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Click on the transparency that you want to grab. Alright, then I'm going to turn on the original sketch and hit Apple J to copy in layer, and I'm just gonna merge that down to the big dude. So Apple E, merge that down. Gonna do the same thing with the small guy. Oops. Wait for it to stop being stupid. Apple, click on the thumbnail in the layer menu. I think it's Control and click on a PC, or you can right click on a PC and then grab the sketch layer via copy and then merge that down. Okay, so I think I want to put a hat on this little guy. So what I'm going to do is turn off layer transparency, grab a hard edge brush here, grab a fairly dark color, and just draw in the little guy's hat. And I think I want to move him up above the big guy. And since he's a little cutie, he gets a little hat. And color that in. Someone called me Bob Ross online today. So I was thinking about, oh, I'm just gonna put in a little cutie, a happy cutie hat here, a happy cutie hat there. But then I would be really stupid. I wish I was as good as Bob Ross. I don't know if you've watched any of those hour paintings that he does, but he gets a lot of detail and a lot of expression in his work in just an hour. I wish I was that good with this stuff. So let's turn transparency back on, preserve transparency back on, and let's just draw in the face of the hat cutie. All right, there we go. So today I think I'm going to concentrate mostly on the background. So I'm going to turn off the foreground layer, and I'm going to work in some details. And we'll go from back to front. So we'll work on this section back here. And if we take a look at our reference folders, a reference file, you can see that a lot of the background in these photos is taken up by leaves and greenery and such. Stuff like that. So you get these branches with leaves overlaid, you know, not branches, these are trunks. Trunks with brush, a little bit of brush, lots of leaves going on here. So I think I want to mimic that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this back by painting in a little bit more dark gray here. A little bit more. Right. And I don't want to have just straight up and down tree trunks like I've got going right now, because that's kind of dull. So I'm going to kind of curve them around. Put in a happy little tree trunk. Because I want to give the impression of sort of like a twisted forest. Like even though they're cuties, it's still a place that you don't necessarily want to be. And I'm using a fairly large brush right now. I'm not worried about getting too much detail in that, even in this black and white stage. I want to get a little bit more detail than what I have now, so that I'll have more to play with when I start tossing on color. But for now, I'm still working with fairly large brushes. And I'm still playing around like an idiot who doesn't know exactly where he's going with this. And I think I remember I wanted these sections here to be more middle ground instead of the background. So I'll keep that in mind when I start working up those segments here. All right, we seem to have this one central bent tree trunk as a focus here, which I kind of like. It's pretty cool. It's not a typical up and down. It gives a kind of creaky shape to it. It also kind of moves your eye over here. So there's some motion in here. This trunk has a nice motion to it. This one does as well. Let's save it. All right. So for the leaves and the brush, I am not going to be dumb and paint all that crap individually. I am going to use a handy dandy leaf brush. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna make a spatter brush. and just use that. So we'll take this chalk brush here, and if you up-res it, you'll see that there's no opacity or any controls on it. It's just this blob of tone. So we're gonna screw with our settings here. So we want to go to scattering, and we want that to be controlled by the pen pressure, and we want it to go all over the place. No, we don't want it to go too terrible. And we want the shape dynamics to, well, let's make it to pen pressure. Do I want the size to jitter? Yes, I do. Brush tip, roundness, other dynamics, opacity. I definitely want opacity set to the pen pressure. And down here you'll see a preview of what your brush shape is looking like. What other things do I want to do to this thing? That seems pretty good to me. I just want to kind of sweep across and get a whole bunch of fake leaves. These aren't going to be leaves. So seems good for me. Just in case, I want to save this. So open up your brush palette, click save, and we'll call this Chalky Leaf Spata Brush. There we go. And most of my brushes are the default ones. As we get more involved and deeper into this painting, I might download some custom brushes and show you how to install those. I have a favorite set that I haven't installed on this machine. So, alright, so right now, if we just paint, this is kind of what our spatter looks like. Can't really tell what's going on. So let's grab light gray color. Let's take the shape down a little bit and just, no, I don't like that. Don't like that either. And start working some of this crap in here. You know, keep it light. Seems a little too even, a little too digital, but we can fix that. And I'm kind of going randomly, placing where I think it would look okay or not too terrible. You can see the harder I push down, the more the chalk shape appears. You wouldn't really see the tops of this branch, would you? I guess not. So let's get rid of some of that. Well, we've got some nice shrubbery action going on over here. Adding that over here. Some of this crap is getting out of hand. Another nice thing about having a dual monitor setup is that you can have a smaller window open on that other screen of your composition, so you don't have to zoom out to see if what you're doing is helping or hurting. And I have no idea where I'm going with all this stuff, but I'm just kind of painting some of this texture in. Just playing around with shapes and worrying about tone, not necessarily worrying about accuracy or realism. Let's take a look back at our references. There's a lot of light coming in on this particular photo. I don't want to use that. This one seems to get muddled up in these darker areas. Down here it's really dark, fades to dark. I don't know. I think I like the idea of going back to very dark. So we'll sort of, we're going to use this spatter brush to sort of indicate that there's some overgrowth in the background that we can't see because we are not that close to it. It gives us a nice effect. Cut out some more of these shapes. Let's switch back to our let's go with this brush here. Paint in some of this background. Mess around with the foreground a little bit. Keep an eye on this trunk, which I like, and I'll add some more details to that later. And zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Kind of like what we got going on there. It's more detailed than when it started, but not too detailed that it starts drawing your eye away from the rest of the composition. You want to give just enough hint of detail that it looks like it's still in the same reality, but not too much that it starts to take away from everything else. So I can live with that. Let's see how it places with our cuties. There we go. All right, so this thing here I want to be a rock, and we've got a nice reference for that kind of rock, or this kind of I don't know what you call that, granite, I guess. This kind of stepped rock. I like the moss on this rock. I like the texture of this rock. So maybe we'll do something more along these lines. All right. So I kind of have, it looks like I kind of have this shape jutting out here. So I'm gonna make that a natural. It seems natural to make that a rock. And here's our big boulder here. This is our big boulder with our tree, with our two trees coming off of it. So I'm gonna start painting that in. Let's switch to our chalk brush. And at this point, I guess we want to start thinking about light source. Where is the light coming from? I would say the light is coming directly from overhead. Maybe to the right slightly. But mostly overhead. And of course we'll knock in some leaf shadows and all that kind of really cool stuff as we get more and more into the details of what we're doing here. But right now I want to get more crap in here as quickly as possible, just so I can keep it interesting for myself and for you, the viewer. So I kind of wonder, because I used to watch a lot of Bob Ross, and I kind of wonder if he ever got pissed at the crew, or like if he ever had a moment when he was in the middle of something where he got distracted, or you know, I want to know what's on the cutting room floor, if there is anything on the cutting room floor. I mean, it's totally possible that he was some sort of magnificent artist who never screwed up, or who was always able to figure out an out whenever he screwed up. I would love to see if there is anything on the cutting room floor. If there is another Bob Ross that we never got to see, a frustrated man who, you know, was a heavy drinker or something like that. Didn't seem to be. He seemed to be very well in touch with nature and his surroundings, and very at peace. So it was kind of soothing to watch Bob Ross during the middle of a busy work day, in the break room at this one place where I worked. And every day we knew Bob Ross would be there for lunch, so we would get our lunches, and we would turn on Bob Ross, and there he'd be painting his happy trees with these big brushes. And his paintings always started out looking kind of like this kind of ugly crap that I've got going on right now. But unlike what I've got going on right now, in the space of like maybe 5 minutes, you could see where he was going. And I wonder if he was really that good, or if he just didn't care and let go, and was able to just go with the flow and reach a zen-like state while the cameras were on him. So these are the things that I want to know about Monsieur Bob Ross. And I guess we'll never know now, because I don't know, maybe there's a Bob Ross documentary. So this is the kind of random stuff that goes through my head as I'm painting and stuff. Kind of like where this is going. This looks kind of nice, kinda. I don't even know if this is gonna show through. Nope, that one isn't gonna show through. It's always good to keep an eye on what's covering what when you're doing this. Happy little rock. Yeah, we got some action going on down here. So alright, so I like this formation. I like this rock on the right, and I'm starting to kind of like what's going on with this rock over here. So I think it's time to start to place in the tree, and I want this tree to have a gnarled kind of creepy quality to it, sort of like it's both growing out of the rock and kind of hugging the rock at the same time, sort of a creepy symbiotic relationship with the rock that no one's gonna notice. Except for yours truly, and anyone who stuck through this far watching it. Give the rock some crevices. I don't know. We'll probably get more detail out of this section when we take it out to color. But I just want to get this idea started of the tendrils of the tree kind of working their way into the rock. You know, just kind of grabbing through, veining stuff. Why? Why not? And so let's grab our tree bark color and work it in here. Just tap it in. Tap, tap, tap. Take a sip of water. And we want to get something going over here with this tree trunk. Let's grab some of that darkness over there. Alright, so that's still in frame for this guy. This needs to be more chunky. Right now it looks pretty veiny. Oh, I like what's going on there. That's cool. Let's get a little more sketchy in there. Oh, I'm getting too, oops, wrong tool. Getting too worked up into details on this thing, but it's so much fun. So much fun. No one's gonna pay attention to this, hopefully. So, sometimes just inspiration hits and you go with a section and you start to add more detail than you intended to, like here. And sometimes you just have no idea what's gonna work, like this section here, and you just wanna start filling in stuff. One thing I should mention, I'm fully cognizant that I'm not doing a very good job of lighting this scene. Right now I'm worried more about values and rendering objects and rounding out shapes and things like that. The lighting is going to come in when I do more of the color, seeing how the light bounces around this composition, seeing how I can play with it, and seeing how it affects the colors. So yeah, I know I'm just, looks like I'm dorking around and just rendering everything the same, which I might be, but there is some sort of method to my madness here. That particular trunk is not as interesting as this one. How can we make this more interesting? Let's cut out some of this crap here. Maybe make it broken. Oh, that's a good idea. Here's a broken tree trunk. Wah! I have that Wonder Girl song in my head. That Korean pop group that performed on So you think you can dance? I've got nobody but you. Nobody but you. Alright, I can deal with that. I like the screwed up, messed up trunk action going on here. Alright. I'll stop with that. Alright, so we got a blown out trunk, we got a regular tree trunk, we got our background, kind of, we got our rocks, kind of. They can always use more details, like some small scratches and stuff, but I think we'll detail those up when we start laying in the colors. I've saved the best for last, which is this tree. I didn't get any references for trees because I want these to have sort of a otherworldly feel to them, and I figured I sometimes get too beholden to my reference material, so I just kind of wanted to do this one from memory of what I believe tree trunks look like. When it comes to coloring and texturing and seeing how light plays around the trunk and the bark, yeah, I'm probably gonna grab some reference. But for now, let's see where screwing around takes us with this particular tree. Once again, let's see what we're getting into. Okay, that's okay. I think I should make a parallel brush at some point, but the problem is it won't necessarily follow the direction that I'm stroking. So I guess the best way to do what I want is by hand and just dab crap in here. So I've been working a lot with the brush now, with my inking and doing some acrylic painting, mostly painting on monies and dunnies and vinyl toys. And what I would like to see from Wacom or Wacom is a real brush instead of this pen stylus. So I've seen brush pens that are made with nylon bristles, actual bristles, and they form a point, and it's a pretty consistent point, and they paint well. I mean, I have a brush pen that I use to ink every once in a while when I get really lazy and don't feel like dipping and cleaning my brush. But it keeps a very consistent, the synthetic bristles keep a very synthetic tip. And I'm thinking, if they can make synthetic bristles that keep a good tip, maybe they can make a digital brush. So instead of having this pen stylus, and instead of using the pressure on this tip to change opacity and that sort of thing, the digital brush would actually behave like a regular brush, so that when you push down it would spread the bristles, and the bristles would make a mark. That would be absolutely fantastic if Wacom is hearing me. That's the one thing I would really lose my head over, is if they developed a real digital brush. I know they make an airbrush which behaves like an airbrush. I know they make a digital airbrush they've had that for a long time, and I've seen it and I've used it, and it's pretty good. It feels a lot like a real airbrush. Now, if they can do that with the same bristle technology that is in my brush pens, and make that digital, boy, that'd be awesome. That's the one thing that is really keeping me from doing all of my work digital. I know there are a lot of cartoonists out there that are now using their Wacom tablets, or the Cintiq, which is the tablet that's a screen that you can actually draw on. I have some friends who actually use the Cintiq for all their comic work, and I find that while working digitally definitely is much more flexible than working with a brush and pen and ink and all that kind of thing. Um, I don't know. It lacks something. There's a fluidity that's missing when I ink digitally that I can get even with a really crappy brush stroke when I'm not concentrating. Um, so I think that's why I switch back and forth between digital and traditional mediums so often, is because, you know, digital doesn't fully replace my brushes and my pens and my paper. It does a really close job of doing it, but it's not perfect. It's not as good as it could be. So I don't know how one proposes ideas to Wacom, but I would totally want that. That would make my day. And I bet you could charge a buttload for that kind of thing. And it would be totally worth it. And I would totally endorse it. And I would be an evangelist. I would go all over the country extolling the virtues of the digital brush. This is so amazing! I can pimp all the other people's stuff. I'm just not very good at pimping my own. So a little bit more water. I'm gonna save that. Zoom out just a little bit. Alright, so I like what's going on here. We've got some nice detail going on in here. This is definitely a foreground, not a foreground, but a midground element. We've got some nice rock formations here. These trees are kind of cool. And then now we've got, oops, put the background in the background folder. And now we've got our cuties. We've got Big Daddy and Small Dude. So let's start by saving. And I think I'm gonna leave it at that point, because I don't want to go too long with these and bore you to death. And but I want to do this in chunks. So I think this is a decent chunk. There's still stuff I want to do with this ground area. More brush and crap, like you can see here, and like you can see here, and like you can see here, and here. But I think I'm at a really good stopping point for now. So, and my hand kind of hurts because I've been inking for a little bit. So I'll stop it here, and next time I'm going to focus on rendering out these two cuties, so that we can get them ready for color. And then it'll be all color, and I'll go nuts with it, and we'll see how far we go with this. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll check you next time. Bye.